Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
And welcome to another episode of Tales from the Fandom. Today I am joined by my first Twitch streamer from the Great White North in Canada. I am joined by Blue. Welcome to the podcast, Blue. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And if I don't sound like I'm from the Great White North, it's because I was born in England.
That is one of the things that I honestly, when I went to your Twitch stream for the first time, it was very interesting to hear the accent. But then you were talking about how you were in Canada. I was like, oh, you must have just moved from England to Canada. And I think you that is not the case.
No, I've actually lived in Canada for pretty much exactly half my life, 10 years.
That is incredible that the accent still stays, even with the with you have being over there for that long.
Yeah, I guess it's just one of those things that just stuck with me. It's not going anywhere, apparently.
I feel it's the same for when people, because I live in Florida, I feel it's the same for when people from like New York and Boston move down here. They still have that accent. It's just something where it's just so strong. It's in your blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard if you've lived in a place for your first like 8 years of life, then that accent is with you for life.
See, that was my problem, is that I moved every like 2 or 3 years and I never got an accent, or I can mimic accents, so I can get my southern drawl on if I need to, or I can talk really fast, and I don't know. I never got a cool one.
I used to mimic a Canadian accent all through while I was in middle school because I was really embarrassed about my English accent. So I used to speak with a Canadian accent to the point where my best friends didn't actually know that I was English until they came over to my house and met my parents.
No way.
Yeah, seriously. And then they didn't believe me. And then when they heard my parents, of course, then it all came out. And then I started speaking with an English accent and they just stood there stunned with their mouths on the floor.
Oh my gosh, that I couldn't even imagine. It's like when I was young, well, not younger, but when I was in, I don't know, high school, college time, and Russell Crowe is in all these movies, right? And he's got straight up American accents.
Yeah.
And then you hear him talking, you're like, what? Where did that come from? Why is he speaking like he's Australian? And then you learn he is Australian.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman too.
It's just, I don't know. And one of the people I remember, they did an interview and he's like, oh, it's just like putting on a jacket. Like, oh, it's time to become an American, or it's time to become British. And it's just, it boggles the mind that people can do it just that easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could never do it that easily, but I think because I started quite young, I developed the Canadian accent quite strongly. So I can just like switch into a Canadian accent whenever I need to.
Oh my goodness, that's just crazy. I'm going to call you the chameleon.
Okay, sure.
So as I said, we have met with air quotes for people that are listening on Twitch, and we're definitely going to be talking about Twitch and video games later on in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the big fandoms that is talked about, I would wager at least a majority of the time on this podcast, which is always something fun for me to do, is talk about Harry Potter. And you are into Harry Potter.
Yes, I'm completely obsessed with Harry Potter.
When did the obsession start? Like, how did you get into Harry Potter?
You know, I don't actually remember because, of course, the first book came out in 1997 and I was also born in 1997. So I think I just grew up with them. I don't remember the first time I read the book or had the book read to me, like the Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone. I think it was just ingrained into my brain from just such a young age.
I love that you just laid that right out there. The Philosopher's Stone. It's not the Sorcerer's Stone, American audiences. It's the Philosopher's Stone.
My copy of the book does say Philosopher's Stone because I bought it when I was in the UK still. So mine still says Philosopher's Stone.
That I see, and I you know, just nitpicky here. Would have loved to have just had it come straight over. We didn't need the changes. I think we would have been okay.
Yeah, I don't understand why they actually did change it. I mean, especially considering the fact that Nicholas Flamel and the Philosopher's Stone isn't something that is specialized to Harry Potter. That is a concept that has, spanned lore for many years.
Exactly. The only thing that I know that they changed, and I think it's more because it's a term that we don't use in the States, is like when people have a fight, they call it, I think it's a row or a row.
A row, yeah.
And that's, I know it happens in the books, and they use that term,
Mhm.
but in the American version they changed, or in the US version. And it's like, okay, like I can see that. I can understand why that maybe needed to be nudged in a different direction. But Philosopher's Stone all the way.
Yes, I completely agree. Something that I actually didn't realize for a long time, until probably about a year ago, that the Sorcerer's Stone movie is actually a completely different cut to the Philosopher's Stone movie. Like, you have scenes that don't exist in the Philosopher's Stone.
Okay, stop for a second. And now we need to go back because apparently I didn't know this. So say the what?
Yeah, the movie. I didn't know this either until I went online when I was trying to find it to watch it, and I ended up on a Sorcerer's Stone version, and I thought it was very strange that they had the actors say Sorcerer's Stone, and then I was watching through the movie. Then there was just this scene that popped up. I don't actually remember what it was. I think it was something to do with Neville, that wasn't in the Philosopher's Stone. It wasn't in the movie that I saw. It wasn't in the director's cut. It wasn't in any of the fancy versions. The Sorcerer's Stone has an added scene that the Philosopher's Stone doesn't have.
Do you know what scene that is off the top of your head?
Uh,
If not, that's okay.
I think it's something to do with, in the Great Hall, they're talking about something. They're at dinner or something, and it's something to do with Seamus and Neville. I'm fairly certain, but I don't know exactly what scene. But yeah.
Well, I know what I'm doing after we finish recording this episode is I'm going to be looking that up, because I knew that they did two different versions where they said Philosopher's Stone for one release and Sorcerer's Stone for the stateside release. I did not know that there was an extra scene that's not included in one of these versions, and I spent money on those fancy Blu-rays that sit underneath my TV, and I had no clue.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if maybe I just, the DVD that I got, the Philosopher's Stone didn't have that scene in it. I don't know, but for some reason, I never saw that scene until I watched the Sorcerer's Stone version.
Oh my goodness. Everyone, take a moment, pause this episode, and go look for it. And then we'll talk about it later in some future episode where I can be like, hey, everybody, let's talk about this scene that we never saw.
Mm-hmm. Or you guys might have seen it and then thought, oh my God, why haven't the English people seen this?
Why is somebody being deprived of this scene?
Yeah.
Outrage,
Mhm.
I say. All right, so you were born with a book of Harry Potter in your hand, because obviously, that's how things happen, is you are born and gifted. I mean, you were born in England, so therefore you must have been just gifted Harry Potter.
Mhm. I also emigrated just before my 11th birthday, so I told all of my friends that I got my letter to Hogwarts.
That's awesome. You got your letter to Hogwarts. See ya.
Yep, I have to go. Goodbye.
Oh my goodness. I guess, for someone who grew up in England, and obviously it's like years and years and years ago, what was it like with, and I guess, having Harry Potter, be something that is from England and such a huge influence in not like worldwide stuff, but I mean directly in England?
It was something I'll never forget. I was so young at the time, but I can remember watching the news with my parents and seeing just the queues or lines of people outside of these just regular shops wanting to buy a book. And that had not happened before. People didn't queue up for miles and wait hours and days in the street to be able to buy a book. And it sparked this whole new generation of children that wanted to read, actively wanted to read, because it had become something that was so old-fashioned and didn't happen anymore. And it was uncool and nobody did it. And then all of a sudden Harry Potter came out and the whole country just dove right back into their bookshelves. And for a while afterwards, I can remember around school or around my brother's school, because he was in he was in grammar school while I was still in primary school, because you only have two schools in England. He was in grammar school, and I can remember him coming home and talking about him chatting with his friends and about how they're now sharing different books and different authors. And it just completely like sparked this whole, we should read, reading is good in the UK that hadn't been there for generations. It was a phenomenal thing. And it's something that I think, people don't read nowadays, and Harry Potter really put that spark into a generation of people. And I'm hoping that there's going to be another series of books or something that comes out for this next generation that is going to, again, spark that light in them to pick up a hard copy of a book and not just play video games, even though I love video games as well,
Exactly. It's definitely something, and I got into it when I was in college. Like my mom had read the first 3 and gave them to me for me to read because she thought I'd like them. And then there it was every book was released was, okay, I'm going to go wait in line, except for, which one was it? It was Half-Blood Prince. I was in Japan when it released. And so I picked it up from one of the bookstores there that carried it. And they had the British version, which was really awesome because I liked reading it, the differences, and having it. And then I picked up the US version once I came back. But it is definitely something where every book release, I was there waiting for the book so I could read it because I needed it. I will say that, what book was it? I think it was the last book during the lineup. The people at the front of the line, after they got their book, flipped to the back pages of the book and were reading it. And they started smiling and saying yay and being super happy. And I'm like, stop ruining it for the people in the line that were still in waiting to get the book.
Yeah, my mum kind of did the same thing to me because I am that couple like years behind all of the books and the movies. I'm that bit younger. So when I sort of caught up to the age that the characters are throughout the books, because you do kind of read them, if you grow up with them, you do kind of read them at the same year that the characters are is your age. So when I kind of caught up a little bit, I remember I got to the Deathly Hallows and I wanted to read it, and my mum goes into Tesco's, which is a superstore, a grocery store in the UK, and there's a stand of them. And she walks over to the stand, and I've been pestering her about it. I've been pestering her for like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. I want to know what happens. I want to know what happens. I want to know what happens. And so she just picks up the book, flicks to the end of the book, doesn't get all the way to the end, sees, spoiler alert, that Harry dies, and says, "Oh, Harry dies, the war's over," and then closes the book and puts it back on the shelf. And I wanted her to buy it for me so I could read it, but she wouldn't, and I was so upset, so I had to go home thinking that Harry died and the war ends in misery.
Oh my gosh, that would be a whole different Harry Potter that we would be having.
It would be, yeah, definitely. But my mum was cruel, but she got great enjoyment out of it. I think she'd already read the book by that point, or had like heard of the ending or something, so she just wanted to tease me.
Oh my goodness, that is cruel and an unusual punishment.
Definitely.
I know that my kids have watched all of the movies at this point, but then my daughter has just started reading them. She's actually on Order of the Phoenix now. So the main takeaway that she has had is there's a lot of stuff that's in the books that's not in the movies. And I said, yes, that's how it works, sadly, is where you miss out on a lot of stuff. And she's like, but there's things that I want to see, and I'm sorry, I can't change the movie.
Yeah, definitely. The things probably that I'd want to see the most are things like Harry and the boys interacting in their dorm or like in the common area or something, you know, just like the little snippets of just casual interaction between them. Like we got a tiny taste of it when they were taking those sweets and then turned into like an elephant and the lion roar and stuff. I want more of that. I want more of just seeing them. Like this is where I need an anime OVA of just them like having a day at school, you know, a normal day. I don't want to worry about the war. I just want to see them go to their classes and do their lessons, you know?
Right, or you know, see Dobby working at Hogwarts, or anything that is Hermione or Ginny related, because those two characters definitely got like, you know, Hermione's whole spew
Yeah.
storyline is gone. Ginny is made to be like a character that's not even close to how the books are for the most part.
Yeah.
You don't get to see half of the Weasleys.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to see some of the older Weasleys, even see some of Charlie's adventures with the dragons. Just like, just details. I want details, but I also know that it's just not possible to do that in a 2.5 hour long movie, you know?
I fully expect, and I'll probably say it. Let's see here. Harry Potter World opened at Universal Studios, let's say 5 or 6 years ago, maybe. It may be longer. Okay. Licensing contracts aside, and the new Fantastic Beasts series, which I think has another 6 or 7 years to go because it's got 3 more movies to do, if they're still going to do them. I would wager that in, let's say 15 years, 15 or 20 years, I would wager that the Harry Potter rights are sold, bought something for a streaming service, and we'll get like every book will get a 10 or 13 episode show.
Yeah, a kind of series of unfortunate events vibe.
Something like that. Yeah, series, and I have to say that we devoured that series on Netflix. Like we fell in love with it.
Really, I haven't actually watched it. I have read all the books, seen the original movie, and then I've just sat here like gritting my teeth, wondering whether or not I should actually watch it because I don't want to ruin my childhood perception, but I also really want to watch it, you know?
Well, we have never read those books, and we never saw the original movie, but based on what I've Wikipedia'd about the story from the books, it's very faithful, and it's very good. And Neil Patrick Harris does a great job. The kids are all wonderful, and of course, my wife loved a certain casting of a character. She's like, "Oh, look, it's my TV husband," and I said, "Oh, yes, it is, and I love him too."
Oh, that's cute.
I will not spoil it because it is a character that you're like, "Oh, I didn't know anything about that," but okay.
Well, that's made me intrigued now. I will definitely have to go watch it.
Well, I'll just keep it at that.
Okay.
So for anyone that comes on when we talk about Harry Potter, and as you know, because you listened to a podcast episode where I talked about Harry Potter, I always ask, what house are you?
I am a Slytherin.
What?
Yeah.
That I see. I lost count of how many of each house I had, but Slytherin is definitely the rarest house for me to come across.
Really? Yeah, I find that we're the most vocal about our house. We're all quite Slytherin pride heavy, so I think maybe there's less of us, but we just shout louder.
So what is it about that house that makes you a Slytherin, or that you identify with as Slytherin?
Well, funnily enough, I am about as purely English as you can possibly get. We can trace my family line back into the 1600s, and I was not only just English, but in the tiniest little county in the south of England. Goes all the way back. So I'm like pretty much pure English, which pure blood Slytherin kind of goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
And also, I don't know. My dad's definitely a Slytherin. My mum's most definitely a Hufflepuff, and my brother's a Ravenclaw. And I take after my dad a heck of a lot. So I'm definitely Slytherin when it comes to that. And I don't know. I just vibe with the Slytherins. I vibe with the dungeons. The they're kind of like sly, a little bit snooty at times, but with good reason. I don't know. I just feel truly like a Slytherin through and through.
Okay, I can get that. And it's something where I didn't realize how much it would be an issue with, because with the Harry Potter books, it's Slytherins are the de facto bad guys,
Yes.
and you don't get to see really anything beyond the Malfoys, Crabbe and Goyle. You don't really get to see other Slytherins interacting. You don't really get the chance to really get to know the ones outside of the core. Like, we hate Harry camp.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when I had the kids all wanted to do the quiz to see what they were, and my oldest son got Slytherin, and he
Oh.
got really upset about it. Like, and we had to talk to him because he's seen the movies. He hasn't read the books, but he's seen the movies, and we had to, walk him through, like, just because you're Slytherin, that doesn't make you bad. It just means that you have different qualities where you are looking at things a different way, and you're perceiving things differently, and it's just how your mind works. It's not saying that you are bad.
Definitely. Yeah, I find it's funny. I was actually talking with my stream the other day about Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is strange for this, but it makes sense. So if you think about the 4 nations, we were trying to put the nations into which houses they would belong to. And we first played with, water would be Ravenclaw, and then it just didn't really fit well. So I think air is definitely Ravenclaw. Gryffindor is fire, which would make Slytherin water, and then Hufflepuff earth, which makes perfect sense to me. But the Slytherin water thing kind of really resonated with me, because the whole idea that water will just take the most direct path it needs to get to its final destination, right? So sometimes that's going to take it through things that are not so clean and beautiful and easygoing, and it's going to take the water down a messy, mucky path that might end up tainting the pool at the bottom and making it all a bit cloudy. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the water is going to take that direction. It might take a beautiful, serene direction down and get into a clear, beautiful path of water instead. And then fire for Gryffindor also made a lot of sense because of how much power and ferocity that they have, and this ability that if they don't control that energy, then everything can go amok and it can all blow over as well. So that bravery also needs to have containment, and I think that really made sense for a lot of people in my chat and for myself as well, giving us a better understanding of the qualities of each house and how every single one of them can most definitely turn evil or bad, especially even Ravenclaw, considering the fact that their intellect can sometimes get in their own way, and then they focus too much on that and then get themselves into trouble that way as well. So I definitely think there are good and bad qualities of each house, but the qualities of that house is how you play off of them that defines who you are, and not just a set path that's already given to you on a silver platter,
That is awesome. I don't think I've ever tackled, because you always tackle which character would go to which house, but definitely doing the 4 elements and pairing them with the house. I can totally I totally get what you're saying with especially with relation to Gryffindor and Slytherin with the nations that you chose, because they totally work. And anytime people talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender is a great time, because that show is amazing.
It is an amazing show. I recently have been diving into the is it a manga or just comics? I'm not entirely sure if it classifies as which one, but that continue on the story after the 100-Year War, and I'm enjoying them very much.
Yeah, I think we would label them comics or graphic novels, because I don't think they come out with individual issues. They come out with a small book.
Yeah, volume.
And then you've got 4 volumes for the one series, and then you got more volumes for the next series. And
yeah, I'm with you.
Awesome. So back to Harry Potter. As much as I love Avatar, and we could talk about it for another hour or two.
Right.
But with Harry Potter, who is your favorite character?
Oh, probably Narcissa Malfoy.
Whoa, that's that is a out of the left field answer.
It definitely plays off the book version of her more than the movie version of her, but she's just such a mama bear, you know, like she's on Mrs. Weasley's level of mama bear, and you don't get to really see that throughout the movies, but she would do anything for Draco, and her motherly instinct is what in the end kind of saved Draco's life and saved his character and made him question everything. You know, I really think that she was the influence on him that made him, you know, waver in his solidarity to Voldemort.
Exactly. And it is something where if 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 what is it? The end of the and oh my gosh, my brain has melted for a second. At the end of or not Order of the Phoenix, Deathly Hallows. At the end of the Deathly Hallows,
Mhm.
it's her that really plays into like Harry, like the whole ruse that yes, Harry's dead and Draco's alive and all, like that's how like the war is kind of won is on her shoulders.
Yeah, definitely. She changed the flow of everything. And I think that if she hadn't been Bellatrix's sister, I could have, like, I think there could have been a good relationship between her and Andromeda Tonks, Tonks's mother. Is it Tonks's mother? I think. Don't get mad at me if I got that wrong. I think it is. But I think they could have been her other sister. They could have been very, very good friends, and she could have even taken them off to the other side of the to the war. But I think it was her husband and then her sister that got her into all of that trouble. And I don't think that she would have been there if she had a choice in the situation. I think she just was completely choiceless and made the best of a bad situation, really.
Yeah, I can totally see that. It's and see, I love it when people have answers like this because I get to learn just a little bit more from outside of like my little box of Harry Potter. I get more like I get a window
Mm-hmm.
into something else, and it's nice. It's nice to expand my knowledge.
I'll always talk about Harry Potter all day, every day.
All right, Harry Potter person. Last question is which is your favorite book?
Oh, honestly, probably the Philosopher's Stone. It just is the beginning to everything. It is the spark. Not just of like the series of books and the storyline, but also the start of my journey with Harry Potter, the start of everyone's journey really with Harry Potter, and the start of that whole generation that started reading because of Harry Potter. So I have to say, the Philosopher's Stone.
Good answer. I will take it. It is accepted. I would bang a little gavel, but I do not have one.
Ah, you need to get a little gavel.
Yes, I need to adjudicate fandom stuff.
Yes. What would you do if somebody gave an answer that you didn't agree with?
You know what? It's their answer, and who am I to say that their answer is not correct?
Oh, that's cute.
So I mean, there was even a time where I was like, "Oh, I'm never going to talk about insert fandom here," and then I had someone that I really enjoyed talking to, and I was like, "Okay, we'll talk about this fandom," and I let it. I talked about it. I was like, "Why should I exclude people's things that they like? Like, that's not cool." So
Definitely.
it changed. I gotta be good and be talking about everything and anything.
Yep. Don't yuck other people's yums.
That's right. I like pineapple on pizza, and even if people don't, I do. So
I disagree with you, but I respect your taste buds.
oh my goodness. So on to a show. We're gonna jump over from Harry Potter to something total. Well, I guess it could be the same, different. I don't know. Maybe one day there'll be an anime, but it won't be a sports anime.
No.
And you and I were talking, and we have an overlap on one of the shows that we both have watched. But you are into the genre of anime that is sports anime.
I am, yes, very much so.
I guess my first question is because everyone gets into anime differently. Some have friends that push it on them, some where you just discover. Like, how did you get into anime? And then follow-up question, why sports anime?
Good question. So, I mean, like everybody else, I had a Pokemon / Digimon childhood, but it never really got me into anime as such until I was in about the middle of high school, when my best friends sat me down and said, look, you just have to watch this. And they put on Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And I was hooked, and that was my downfall. And then from there, they're very much a different style of anime consumer than I am. And they would like show me all of these animes, and eventually I branched off and found my little nook in sports animes. I've always been a sporty person. I enjoy sports. I've played a bunch of different sports throughout my life. And so I think I started off with Major because I wanted to learn how American baseball works. Didn't know, had no idea. I knew how cricket worked, but baseball, foreign concept. So I decided to learn through watching anime. And Major is one of the oldest sports animes that I know of, or mangas. At least the manga started in 1994. The anime started in 2004. And it's a bunch of episodes that follow a character named Honda that goes through his entire life from, I think, the age of 4 all the way up to adulthood. And that took over my life for a while. It's a heckin' lot of episodes. And I just fell in love with it. It's so strange because it's like everything you get when you watch like the Olympics or the World Cup or another kind of like massive sporting event, but you also get the story behind it. You get the reason why they're there, how they got there, all of the injuries and, you know, horrible things that they've gone through to be able to persevere and get to where they're at the end. And most sports animes tend to have a happy ending as well, which I'm a huge sucker for. So I think that's pretty much how I got there. Yeah. And from there, I just hopped from sports anime to sports anime. Prince of Tennis, All Out, Diamond No Ace, and then even into more like modern things, Haikyuu, Free, and then going back into like some girl power ones like Bamboo Blade. I've seen a heck of a lot of them.
Look at that. See, you've said animes that I have no clue what they are, but it's that because there's pretty much as I say that there's a fandom for everybody, there is a sports anime for everybody.
Definitely, yeah. If you like one particular tiny little bizarre sport, there's gonna be a sports anime for you.
Now, the one that we overlap on is one that I watched back in college, thanks to my friend Max. Max got me into almost all of my animes at the time. He was like, "Oh, you need to watch this one and this one and this one," and then Prince of Tennis was one where he recommended, and that was the one that I really enjoyed. And again, I say this as having watched it probably like 10 years ago or even longer, where I haven't seen it recently, but I remember that I liked it. I loved the characters. I loved the different team ups because they would have like tennis pairs, tennis doubles matches, and you're like, oh, who are they going to team up with now? Who are they going to face? Who can work together and overcome? And it's definitely one of those animes where like you got invested, and it wasn't even like Dragon Ball or Naruto where they're fighting for 5 or 6 episodes. It's they're playing tennis for 2 or 3 episodes. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it is funny how captured you can get in a tennis match. And of course, Prince of Tennis is a classic example of things that can only happen in anime. Some of those moves are just physically impossible, but you can't help but watch them with wide eyes at the edge of your seat, you know, because I mean, they're junior high students and middle school students that are like outmatching pro tennis players. You know, you can't help but love it.
Oh my gosh, yes, there's one we were talking about because I bought a little plushie of him when I was in Japan. Kaoru Kaido, who is like the Viper, and he has this like snake shot where like it's a curving shot, right? And when I was in Japan, I was at the middle school I was teaching at, and they had this tennis club, and I think Prince of Tennis was still somewhat popular at the time, or still going on where people could read it,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, "Oh, look, I can do a snake shot." And they didn't have like real tennis balls. That's the one thing they didn't have. They had like these like really soft balls that they used,
Mm-hmm.
and they were able to do that shot like to do that curve, and it blew me away at the time. I did not know it was possible.
Yeah, yeah. It's. Oh, do you remember the one where he hits the ball and it rolls along the top of the net before dropping off onto the opponent's side?
Yes.
Oh, that one always gets me every time. I'm like, nah.
Oh my goodness. It is definitely one of those shows that I think, and I think with a lot of the anime that I watch, I'm not really drawn to say the main character, but the supporting cast in all the animes are really really good, and Prince of Tennis definitely has a great supporting cast.
Yeah, well, I have to say the main character Echizen isn't particularly likable. He is a very stoic, just brash character. He's quite rude to his upperclassmen. He's rude to everybody, to be honest. But his dad is the most insane person. So in the premise of the anime, his dad is he was a pro tennis player that retired prematurely before he could do like his proper world circuit and really take the stage and represent for Japanese tennis. And for some mysterious reason, you find out later in the anime, he stopped early. And so he's raised his son, who I think is like 12 or 13 throughout this, like the beginning of it. And he has raised his son from like day one in like nappies to hold a tennis racket and hit a ball. And his son can never beat him. Like that is one thing that he's like, his son wants to beat him as much as possible, but his dad is so good that he will beat his son in an entire match without moving one of his feet and will just pivot the entire time. Like that's, I don't know, it's insane.
Oh my gosh, yes, it's definitely one of those shows where there's just a lot going on, but I think as you grow up or as you get involved in the show, you fall in love, or you pick those characters that you're like, I really like those characters, and you follow their story, and you're like, oh, main story, okay, whatever, like it's cool, it's cool, main person.
Yeah, definitely.
You do your thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. I mean, you definitely do form an emotional attachment to the main character in Prince of Tennis, but it is a different emotional attachment than you feel towards some of the side characters, because you still want him to achieve, but he is this prodigy that kind of doesn't really care about tennis in his like outward exterior is how, I don't know what that word is. I'm sorry, my brain just failed. Outwardly, he just doesn't really care about tennis, and that is quite frustrating because you can see how hard everybody else is working, and it always appears like he isn't working as hard. But of course, he is. In fact, he's probably working a lot harder. And you kind of get accustomed to that later on. But for the beginning part, it's just like, okay, he's this, masterful kid that's beating his senpais without even really trying. And he does this cocky thing where he starts playing with his right hand, but he's actually left-handed. And so then,
that's right.
Yeah. So then if he faces a particularly tough opponent, then he'll switch to his left hand. And it's like this big dramatic moment. But to me, it just seems really cocky. He gets called out for that quite a lot.
It's like, oh, snap. Look at what you're about to do.
Yeah, definitely. It's a level up kind of moment. It's I'm going into boss mode now.
Do you have if people are listening, like obviously Prince of Tennis is what we're talking about, but is there a sports anime that you would be like, if you want a great sports anime, you need to watch this anime, like insert anime here?
So I'd probably say Haikyuu. It's a more modern anime. The art style to it is hilarious. I love the faces, the way that they're drawn. It's so funny. But Haikyuu is one of the highest rated animes, just like in general, from a lot of different rating sites and people that rate them. Haikyuu is up there just in general anime. So if you're kind of new to anime or new to sports anime, it's just an incredible anime, regardless of it being about volleyball. And there's 3 seasons of that right now, and a 4th season has been announced to go on. But I would definitely recommend starting with Haikyuu. If you're looking for something a bit more girl power, though, and you like swords, there is a kendo anime called Bamboo Blade that's all about girls killing it in some kendo, and that's really cool as well.
That's awesome. I have heard of Haikyuu before. I remember the manga being out in like the first season of the anime airing.
Yeah,
I didn't ever get to watch it or read or anything, but I heard that it was really good. And I'm going to have to look up the other one because kendo and swords and girl power is always great.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah, a Haikyuu. The second season tends to be higher rated than the first season, but I personally prefer the first season. And yeah, I recommend all sports animes. If you're going to watch sports animes, just watch them all.
Gotta watch them all. Sports anime.
Definitely.
One of the reasons that we are talking right now is because of video games
Yes.
and Twitch. We'll roll to Twitch in a moment, but how did you get into video games? Was video games like you had them growing up, or did you get into them later?
Sort of half and half. I had a Game Boy Advance growing up. I had Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets on it because, of course. And I had a few Pokemon games and a couple of other things as well. But I didn't really have that much when it came to that. I used to sit on the wooden armchair, arm of the chair, that my brother would be sitting in playing video games. My brother's 2 years older than me, and he used to play Diablo way before we were old enough to play it. And a bunch of other games like that. Red Alert was one that we used to play. RuneScape, and then eventually we got into Mabinogi and other stuff of that ilk. But I remember sitting there and watching him play, and I would watch his mana go down or his health go down, and I'd like warn him, like, George, your mana, your manga, manga. What am I? I'm still in anime mode. I'm still in anime mode. Your mana is down, your health is down. You need to heal. You need to take this potion. You need to do this. And we would kind of joint play, but he always had control of the mouse and keyboard until after we emigrated. I got a DS Lite, and then I started to branch out on my own gaming a little bit, but I never really got into PC gaming at all, to be honest, until I reached high school, when me and my best friends would have sleepovers at my house, to the point where their parents would question whether or not they were coming home for the week, because we were just spending the whole time in the basement at my place. And we would have like Minecraft or Sims marathons. That was the two that we mainly played. We all got Minecraft in like beta. My brother had it in alpha, but we got it in beta, and we would just play constantly. And that was before you could play together, so we were all playing individually. And I think we started playing before the Nether was even a thing together. And that's kind of where I got started with that. And then I got out of video games for a while when I had to adult for a bit. And then streaming became my way to kind of get back into it, to open myself up to new games, to expand my gaming horizon. And I'm not very good at gaming. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm a total noob. But that's why I play on stream, because then everyone else can help me out. And then I can also kind of document my progress and go back and see how much of a noob I was a month ago compared to how much of a noob I am now, you know?
What draws you to the games that you play? Because I know for everyone it's different. I know, like, for example, me, because I get to say a few things about me, is that like way back in the day, let's say like the original Wolfenstein or Doom, like those original first person shooters.
Mhm.
I mean, you're doing up, down, left, right, and spacebar to shoot. Now you're doing like so many different combinations to move your character around and look left while you're walking right, and it's to the point where it's gotten too complicated. I can't play it anymore. So like I'm drawn to more slow games where it's strategic and I have like a few moments to think, or like role playing games where I get to make a character and go through the world. What draws you to games? Like which games like do you get drawn to?
I love a good story. I've always been a reader since Harry Potter, thanks. And because of that, I think I do definitely get drawn to games that have a storyline that isn't like meaning that I only exclusively play games with a storyline, because I do have like a big suggestion box thing that my viewers can put their own ideas in, games that they want me to play. So I like, because of them, I've played a bunch of games that I've never like heard of before, never knew about. But I think I play things that are nostalgic, things that a lot of people grew up with. I play things that I just kind of stumble across as well and just click on them and give it a shot. I don't tend to play first-person shooters or anything that is too challenging to play, because, like I said, I am a complete noob. But I do like things that have high interaction levels for my chat. So visual novels are a great one for that, because they can choose the decision that we go with, and then the ending is kind of their fault, because normally it's a bad one. And I also I like architecture, I like building. So Sims 4, I mainly do building stuff, other than my 100 Baby Challenge series, which I have going right now. And then in Minecraft, I'm doing a massive castle build as well. So I do tend to not necessarily play in like the combat kind of field of gaming, even if it is like a combat style game. I'll always like hang back and be the person that like makes the house look nice, you know? So yeah, I don't know. I play whatever I feel like, really. I don't have a specific genre that I tend to stick to. I'll play pretty much anything, but I just tend to play what I'm recommended, or you know, what my brother tells me is a good game to play, and go from there, you know?
I totally understand. And I have 3 kids that all begged me to get Minecraft, and I think right now we have it. Well, we had it for the Xbox 360, and then that got hit by lightning, so that's dead. But then they had it for their Kindles, but then their Kindles weren't really working that well. So now they have it for their iPads, and I can imagine that at some point they'll get it for their laptops to play as well.
Yeah, just get Minecraft on everything.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like Minecraft has taken over the world.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny how much it blew up. You wouldn't really think. I guess it's just virtual Legos, isn't it? And Legos is huge.
Hmm.
But like, I don't think anybody expected Minecraft to blow up the way that it did.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I know my wife was really iffy on it, because she's like, "Oh, I heard that there's like not good things," and then of course the kids are like, "We killed a pig today," or "We killed a villager," and she's like, "Why are you killing things? Like, you don't need to kill things, do you?" And so I had to I had to look into it and then make sure it's okay. I was like, "Yeah, this is pretty tame compared to what other games they want to play."
Yeah, like me and my brother playing Diablo at way too young.
Well, I know my kids are at least one of them has been really wanting to play Fortnite forever, and it's I don't think it's going to happen, not yet.
Yeah, the community in Fortnite is probably what I would stay away from the most, because you can't guarantee what people say on the online.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing. I was watching someone stream it, and it's like, okay, I you and I are cool, and you're a cool guy, but I wouldn't want like what you're saying to be heard by my kids as you're playing Fortnite. And I'm sure like there's some way to like hopefully turn it off, or what, like no interaction. But even then, like as parents, we're definitely more like, we don't really want you to have like games with guns right now.
Yeah, true, true.
So you mentioned streaming, and it's definitely a question that I have for people as I get more people who stream on the podcast is, what motivated you to decide to stream?
Well, I don't really know, to be honest. I I've been consuming online content for like as long as I can remember, you know, since like the Badger song was a thing. And I've been surrounded by all of these creative people growing up in this kind of environment where you could just go online and do what you wanted, and people would receive that well, and you would get praised for being creative and doing all of this kinds of stuff. So I can remember I tried to make a YouTube channel probably 100 times growing up, but never actually uploaded anything, never actually, went that next step with it. And then I started making my own money and started investing that into, a processor here, a motherboard here, this, that, and the other, until eventually I created my gaming setup. And the next step for me was to just kind of put it out there and see what happened. And honestly, for me, I was very fortunate. Within a couple of days, I'd had a couple of people in my chat that stuck around, and slowly I've been growing from there. I've only been doing this for a couple of months now, but I've got a wonderful little community that is teaching me so much about gaming, and that's kind of what's gotten me stick with it, is because I'm learning so much from other people about gaming, and not just about gaming, about everything that we talk about. I learned about a whole new animal that I can't remember the name of it now. There's like a cross between an armadillo and an anteater. And it's like a whole new...
Oh, is it a pangolin?
Yeah, that's the one. I didn't even know that existed. And I learned about that on chat the other day. And I was like, okay, well, that's bizarre. I learned about a whole new animal. And it's those kinds of interactions that's just kept me going. And so it was just really one of those things that I just tried it out one day and it clicked. And so here I am.
Here you are as a Twitch streamer.
Yes.
What do you feel? And I was having this conversation with another streamer last night on his stream, but I want to get your answer first before I say what his thing is. What do you feel is the hardest thing about streaming?
For someone who's just starting out, pressing that live button, that's terrifying. But for myself, who's been doing it for a little while now, keeping the motivation in your to keep going. And I think it helps that I'm a variety streamer, so I kind of play whatever I want to play. But sometimes there are still days when I'm still early days in streaming. People have been doing this for years and years. But there's occasionally a day where I'll wake up and I'll be like, I don't want to stream today. But then, my Discord or just friends that I have are like, well, just try something new, or, try out this new thing. And it's coming up with those new things to keep it fresh and keep it fun. And because that's, at the end of the day, that's what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it to have fun. And if I'm not having fun, then I shouldn't be doing it anymore, And so I just having the ability to switch it up all the time is very refreshing for me. And it's keeping that new energy and that excitement that I had when I first started through. And I hope I can hold on to that and keep that for the rest of the time that I stream, hopefully for years to come.
The answer that I got yesterday from my other friend that's one of the streamers that I follow is that he and I were discussing it. It's like, for us, because I'm super introverted, and when I stream, the hardest thing for me to do is to be quote unquote, air quotes on, being talkative, even when there's no one watching. It's you still got to be talkative. You still got to be walking through what you're doing and your steps, and just trying to put yourself out there. And I know when I get done with whenever I do get to stream the 2 or 3 hours, after I hit that end button, I'm done. I'm spent. I just kind of melt into the chair and just decompress.
Yeah, it is exhausting. Doing it is completely exhausting. I find that when I first started off and I had no one in my chat, I would watch documentaries or something previously. I would do research on just random stuff. I'd watch a nature documentary and then I would talk about that. So it didn't really have anything to do with my gameplay. It helps that I'm kind of a relaxed streamer, so I don't have to be necessarily hyped the whole time that I stream. But I would come up with just interesting topics, things that I was interested in. And then occasionally when people would come into my chat, I wouldn't necessarily just be talking, okay, I'm going to move right now and then I'm going to place that block there. And, I'd be talking about something that had absolutely nothing to do with what I was gaming. But it gave me something that I was passionate about, something that I could talk about for hours, and just allowed me to get it out of my system. I think it helps that I have ADD, so I need to get stuff out of my system a lot because my brain is going at a million miles a second anyways. But I would just kind of word vomit. And now I have a chat that actually responds to me when I word vomit, and that's bizarre. And they also word vomit back at me. And like recently, we've been doing weird things where we've been like creating stories together in chat. So I'll start off with like, once upon a time, a long, long time ago. And then somebody has to make a line, and then we like make a character and then like play this character while I'm just like building my castle in Minecraft. So I think it helps to have kind of set topics in your mind, not like structured, scripted topics, but just like things that you're interested in, things that you think maybe other people will be interested in, just to talk about to start off with, so that you have that in your mind, so that if no one is in your chat, or like there's only people that are lurking and you don't have an active chat, you still have something to talk about and you don't have to struggle for topics because you've already like pre-thought them.
I totally get that, and now I'm gonna have to use that because like I tended to focus on like gameplay and then just talking about like what's going on in life and just like random stuff, and then sometimes I'd break out into song and sing
I do that all
little
the
bits here and there. But yeah, that's something that I'm gonna have to remember to do when I get back to streaming. I don't know when I'm going to stream over the summer since the kids are going to be home, and that is the one weird thing is I can record this podcast. I know that the kids are upstairs; they're doing fine.
time. Hmm.
If I get on to like play a video game while streaming, I mean, I don't want to keep them upstairs all the whole time. They need to roam, but then I'm talking and it'd be awkward to me to be like, while I'm playing this video game, there's other things happening, and
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know.
But the thing about it is that streamers are human, right? And that's, I think, a reason why viewers go to Twitch over YouTube is that you do get those more just naturally human interactions that you don't get on YouTube anymore because it's become so much more of a production. We used to get it back in the day, but now everything's so edited and quite often scripted. You don't get that level of just, I'm a regular dude. Whereas on Twitch, you still get that. You get all the rough around the edges. You get all of the word vomit. You get the I can't talk right now. Words are difficult.
Right.
And there's something special about that. And I think that's why a lot of people are now transferring over to Twitch from YouTube, and also because of the immediate time interaction that you get on Twitch, which I think is amazing.
Exactly. I like that feedback where you can ask your questions and you'll get answers and you'll get like information. And the people that I follow are very active with their chats and responding back and forth. And I've learned so much from so many different people just by being in chat watching a video game while I work, and just hey, like I can ask a question and get an answer relatively quickly on like the video game or why they like that game or something completely different. Like if you like pepperoni or if you like pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's so special about Twitch, and I think it's also why we're seeing more different types of streamers coming across, because Twitch is no longer just a gamers platform. Now so many more different genres of streamers are just appearing, and it's amazing.
It is from like talk shows or watching people draw. I mean, pretty much there's something for everybody now on Twitch.
Yeah. I have a friend that is an author, and she streams writing her books on Twitch, and I think that's amazing.
That is very amazing. I'll have to. I think I followed somebody recently that was doing something where she was like the person was talking about like the books that she's working on and or making her way to, and I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's whole like writing communities on Twitch now. They're kind of hidden still, but I think it won't be long before they start blooming into full-on massive communities.
Oh, absolutely. And it's nice to have other people to talk to
Definitely.
about things.
Hmm.
All right. Well, Blue, now that we're coming towards the end, if people would like to find you on the internet, where can they go to find you?
They can find me on Twitch at Blue Lavender. It's Lavander rather than E. And on Twitter, probably for like my updates for streaming, mostly on Twitter. And that's at Hannah Shaxted, which is my given name. HANNAHSHAXTED. And I'm also on Instagram under that same spelling as well, if you want to stalk me there too.
Awesome. And I will have the links to everything in the show notes and on the website. So that way it's instantly clickable and you can go there. And if you do go to Blue's Twitch, please make sure to hit that follow button and just drop a note in chat that you listened to her on this podcast episode, because that'd be pretty cool feedback.
It would definitely be very cool feedback.
Well, Blue, I want to say thank you, number one, for recording this at such an early time for you in your time zone. But I was really happy that we were able to get this under our belts and get this done. And it's been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun. I very much enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.